sure I can get your comments and other things. Okay, it's not even showing live yet. Cool. Awesome. There we go. Do a little sound check, get all the good stuff going on, make sure I'm clear for everybody. It's trying. Okay, there we go. We got sound. All right, we're good. Okay. All right. What's up? What's up? What's up, my friends? Welcome back to the edition of the Random Tree Chat. So, use this Eric's mat. Hopefully, it'll make my unsteady bones more helpful. So yeah, so today's topic is, what is Tai Chi really? You know, over the past years, but most recently, I've been getting a lot of offers to do interviews and collabs and requests for all kinds of content, all kinds of stuff. And I turned down a lot of them for many reasons, right? But thinking about where we're going as a community, because I have a very strange path on martial arts and Tai Chi. Tai Chi wasn't my first martial art by far, and the reasons why I do it is not the same as most people. I live in the world but not of it. And it's so funny because I come to realize how little people really understand me and how many assumptions there are about how I live and what my life's been like, and even all the crazy stuff I've done, being metal bands and all the other kind of things that people, they don't really understand. They have assumptions. But I'm now I've agreed to do an interview for some people. I'll let you guys know about that if and when it does come to pass. You'll all find out. But I have more and more people come to me for help, because people who really practice understand the work that I've done to try to recollect the techniques and the theory and be authentic as possible, and also stay true to the traditions. Growing up, the martial arts, I was born strange and born into it, so I've always been, since I was a kid, I was always been a Buddhist, even before I even knew what Buddhism was. It's a very strange thing, and the martial arts and the philosophy saved my life many ways over. But now that I'm being asked by, to take a more public leadership role, because there's never really my intent. When I started the channel, I knew what I was going for, and the gods make things happen how they make them happen. We don't have say, karma's karma. But now that that's where the path is going, I'm not really sure, because we have this problem where there's so much misrepresentation and different ideas of what Taiji is. What is it really? What does it mean to you? And that's why I wanted to hear from you guys in the comments, is what is Tai Chi to you? What is Tai Chi to your lineages? If you're a beginner, what do you think Tai Chi is? Whatever it is to you, there's no wrong answer. What I need to hear is, what the average person, be it a high-level practitioner or someone who's just starting, what do you think Tai Chi is supposed to be? What did your teachers teach you as what it really is? Because the mainstream consensus now, which I think has been propagated by these fake, completely fake online certification programs from adult daycare centers. It's completely fake Tai Chi. It's not. It's just some kind of weird culturally appropriated yoga now. And I learned Tai Chi as a martial art. I learned it first before anything. Tai Chi to me was boxing. Okay, it was meant as a martial art that had extremely high healing qualities. Okay, while it was discussed as but I wasn't treated, because I guess when I did martial arts, I did I started with Zen Buddhism when I was 15, and I was doing meditation every training class, and it's just part of every martial arts lesson. I've never even been in a real school as a student. You know what I mean? I've always taken private lessons or, obscure group classes in random places, underground stuff. I was very blessed that way. Extremely lucky. In every school I've ever been in, I've been an instructor. I came in as an instructor. I didn't train there, okay? So I have a strange experience with that kind of thing, you know, and I also saw it before the internet. So my whole experience with Tai Chi first in the early 90s, sorry, the mid 90s going into the early 2000s was Tai Chi as a martial art. You know, it was for boxing, and then it became a wrestling style when I went to the Chen Man-ching lineage. It was more of about, push hands and wrestling. And obviously people talk about the health benefits, but nobody really got into it as I see in what people are turning Tai Chi into a Qigong practice, and primarily a Qigong practice. That's not how I learned. I mean, the Qigong was there, but the Qigong was a byproduct of learning how to fight. And, the morality is cultural and it's mixed in, but it wasn't necessarily taught as a philosophical path like people are trying to sell it now. And now that I'm being asked to represent Tai Chi as a whole, in several different venues, I'm gearing myself up to that. It's like, what Tai Chi is to me is a lot different than most people, and my philosophies, like for instance, I look at Taoism as a way to understand the physical manifestations in life, whereas Buddhism teaches you how to deal with death. So it's very mechanical to me. Like the Tao is very mechanical. It's like it's just math in a sense. It's a very physical, tangible understanding of things through parables. So, but I don't believe that Taiji Chuan was meant specifically to directly teach Taoism. Okay, it's just my, from my understanding how the lineage I went through it, and even going through 100 teachers. I mean, legitimately, I probably had maybe 15, 20 actual people who are considered teachers of mine. But when it comes down to it, the way I was going about it, trying to, recreate the legend of stealing and putting the art back together, I considered every single person I'd ever touched hands with my teacher. I mean this literally. I went with this philosophy that I'm going to steal this art back together. That was my goal. I made it like my life's mission, a hobby. It was kind of like, I have an OCD thing like that, guys, if you haven't noticed. How do I maintain authenticity when there's so many different views of what the subject really is, and then you have the family lineage, what it is, and then so I mean, on one hand, I just want to say, the hell with it, and just go out and say, this is what Tai Chi means to me, right? And because I think that I don't know if at this point in the game we can actually find a consensus. It's very difficult. It's strange to me how difficult it is. And how many, especially people who call themselves Taoists and Buddhists, and on the outside, they're very pretentious. They look the part. The best way to describe it is the difference between nice and good. I'm a good man, but I am not nice. Okay? And most people who are nice are rarely good. You can't be both. Someone who's nice is rarely good. Sometimes to be good, you have to do things that are not nice. You know what I mean? If you're standing in the mall and you see somebody punch a baby, you're gonna have to do something to him that's not nice, but it would be good. So these concepts are relative, and the Western mind doesn't understand them. So how to express to a world of people who have been convinced to be spiritual slaves that martial arts is a necessity to practice spirituality? Like, how can you practice any kind of philosophy if your body is ill and you're in fear all the time? And then you have the guys who, I don't want to mention names, but there's guys who will use Buddhism as a cover to not be violent, but then they'll use violence by proxy and call somebody else to do violence for them. And there's an old guy who does Wing Chun I just saw a clip of his. I don't even want to mention his name, but I'm sure everybody in the community knows what I'm talking about. It's an older guy, and he always talks about the old 80s, 1800 Wing Chun, and he's saying, that, I'm a Buddhist, and that's why, I don't do this for fighting, but I'm just doing it for historical reference. And it's kind of this delusion that people have, and using Buddhism as a crutch to hide. In order to be a pacifist, you have to be capable of extreme violence. And, even the Buddha has a warrior attendant to a diamond sword to slay demons. Okay? So, even in real Buddhism, you see that there's, Buddhist bodyguards and sheepdogs, okay? They don't make believe in delusion that evil and it doesn't exist in the world, So I guess that's human nature to run away from danger and to seek the path of least resistance, and to deal with trauma of life. You sometimes put walls up and try and make believe it's not there. But what I guess what I'm trying to get to is because I'm preparing for what's about to come in the next couple of weeks, and I'm actually legitimately want to hear what you guys have to say and put in the comments, what do you think Tai Chi is and where should it go? What do you think it needs? Like, how do we correct this stuff, there's so many problems with corruption in the world and just like, you can even call it spiritual warfare, whatever you want to call it. We're in a predicament, and somehow, almost put me to a point where I'm being asked to represent Tai Chi as a whole, and several people in several different venues. And I don't want it to make the situation worse by misrepresenting, I know what I do, people are going to be unhappy. You can't make anybody happy anymore. But what would be the proper definition, Because we have so many people regurgitating what everybody else is saying because they want to fit in or sound good or get clients or students or whatever it is. And I'm not that guy, I've never been that guy. I've never lived a lie. I won't die a lie. So, like, my concern is, not, without a clear description, we don't have a clear path. And that's really what's going on here, And in my opinion, the Tai Chi is so huge because it's so small. There's 8 concepts, okay? 8 concepts, you step 4 ways, okay? But from there, how many lineages have there been? How many, renowned and clown lineages have come from this? And what does it really mean and where are we going? I mean, like, if people don't, as a collective, start in Tai Chi, these philosophies of this fake pacifism and hiding behind the Tao and the Buddhism, they hide behind it as a shield to manipulate and live in delusion. How do I describe it and also clear a path so the next generation isn't going to be worse than before? Because that's what we're living in, degradation, Like, if we don't have a clear communal understanding of what it really is, what it really means, and where it should be going. Because anything that doesn't evolve dies. Okay? I mean, Tai Chi's been evolving, but it hit a wall, at the same time of the Beijing 24 Forum, all the martial arts starts to decline, commercialization. I mean, the stuff that you can teach in the 80s even, you can't teach anymore in a real school. It's just too hard. I mean, like I said, even in MMA schools, how many of the MMA schools are real training? 5%? The rest are doing it for health, sport, or like feel like a tough guy or whatever. But there's only 5% who are actual athletes in martial arts. Okay? Anytime something goes commercial, you have the people who keep the doors open, and then you have a small crew of people that a real instructor will take and have like a secret class or something separate. Because you can't have a commercial setting and have real anything. This doesn't work. And not only that, the majority of the people now are not physically or mentally or spiritually capable to hit those levels anyway. And you can't blame them, it's not for them. Not everybody's supposed to be that's why I hate this term black belt school, because not everybody's supposed to make it. Not everybody graduates college, not everybody gets a PhD, okay? Not everybody graduates high school. So why should everyone be pushed to get a black belt or a sash or whatever you call it, And there's a lot of issues. So I was honestly really looking to get away from teaching martial arts in general and just training. I mean, I've done it my whole life. So I especially now with the way society is and the community, so I'm hoping it's because I've been shadow banned and censored and put into a corner, and they're only like letting me see such a small fraction. There's still good people out there that are worth coming out of the mountain, per se. But they're scattered and too far between, and we have to figure out ways to unite communities together with a common goal to clean the mess up. There's no standards, there's no clear defined goal. Just some of the good people their main goal is just to like keep the lineage alive and make their teachers proud, which is fine, you know. But then, how hard is it to maintain the level? Most of them can't produce what the master produced, and it's just something happened in generations. We're not we're not as good as our teachers, okay? And I was the top 1%, and the guys that that were in the Vietnam era, yeah, they may look small and like they don't have all the growth hormones and the fancy muscles and all that crap, but they would murder us all, okay, easily, like with no problems, okay, like Tai Chi in the early 1900s, like they were fighting the Japanese off with it and like hurting people. This is coming from me. It's coming from many masters, including Man Tai Chia, who's like the humble Taoist master. When you hear him talk about Tai Chi, and I see people like that who know the rules, but they don't really promote it because this generation of people, I don't know if they don't care or understand it or if not that's wanted. And then I worry about, insulting some of the governments and causing issues for people. So there's a lot on my plate right now trying to set up for the next decade, right? If I'm going to continue on this path of being a Tai Chi master, and I never actually called myself a Tai Chi master, and recently, I was in Chinatown, the other masters started calling me in Chinese on the, you know what I mean? So to me, that was like, okay, but I still, like my master's degree came from karate, right? I didn't even think of myself as a Tai Chi master, you know what I mean? But it's, I look at it on paper, I can't deny at this point, I've been doing it for, how long is it now? 1995? So how long is that, okay? It's a long time, it's going almost on 30 years. So consistently, and I did it, alongside hard styles, training all the time, I put it to the test. So I think I've, I can safely say I'm a Tai Chi master now, But I also didn't want to be associated with Tai Chi in that way. I also didn't understand how bad it got and how different it was because I live in a very strange way. Like I even when I use social media, I'll go and I'll post, I'll talk to my small community of people directly. I don't look at people's stuff. I don't scroll on things. Like I just, it doesn't do it for me. Like, when I was have a reason to study things, like in the early 2000s, YouTube and these other websites. I don't remember what it was I was using, but that's where I really started researching stuff. It's like some website that had a lot of Chinese language videos on it. But that's when I'll go and I'll like go and do research. I'll go and I'll start looking through people's stuff. I don't really have a clear understanding where to go or how to unify this properly, and even to speak on the subject and be asked, to represent a 2,000-year-old martial art, it's when I've learned it in such a way where, I guess it is authentic because it's true to the legend. I really went and tried to play the Invincible Yan card, and I really went out of my way to see if it could be done. I want to see if it was possible. And I know I'm rambling because I'm using this to get my thoughts across, to get my thoughts out and organize them. Because I know that once I start coming out and agreeing to more of the interviews and doing these things like that, I want to make sure that not only do I feel like I'm keeping true to myself and authenticity, but I'm also leading in a way that's going to be most beneficial to the collective, okay? I don't mean the obscure idiots like the guys who think they can fight and they hate everything that's like remotely woo, and all the woo guys who are afraid to like pick the lint off somebody's shirt. I mean the core audience who train just to train, okay? Who like to study, who, just train for the training, And also for me, my Tai Chi path was a lonely road, right? Like, I never had, I've had like groups of people who I would, like the Tai Chi meetup people and like that, but I never was part of a class. I took private lessons, or I get tips and pointers from random people, and I put it in my bags and I go and practice every day, alone, okay? And to me, it's a different path that people don't understand. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to direct this in a way that's like authentic, but also helps everybody in the community because we have a lot of problems. And going around saying that we're using magic, or that, there's some, I don't know, just you have to do these weird concepts of like never lifting weights and you can't work out, or it was just like, you have to make believe you're in some sect of philosophical mumbo jumbo that they don't even really practice or believe in. They just use it as a shield against reality. Once I come out with the actual truth, and it's going to put a lot of heat on me in the community, because one, it's going to raise the standards up ridiculously. Like you can't deny like how hard the path was for me, right? And how consistent I've been. And it's like, if that's the case, you're going to have to, you want to get to the level, you have to do the work, and it's going to be a problem. So the whole point of this video is to get you guys to answer in the comments, what do you think it is? What suggestions you have? Like, how would you fix the world of Tai Chi? What do you really think is needed? And like, what does it mean to you? You know what I mean? Because there's so many people that have done Tai Chi for 20 years, and it's just an empty freaking box with nothing in it. They don't have a spiritual aspect. They don't have a physical aspect. And the morality is fake. It's just like a costume they wear. And there's a million people practicing Tai Chi wrong, like completely wrong. So here I am, Mr. Opposite Day, being asked to represent these people, and I don't even understand what they see. I talk to even my friends who don't understand me, that they make these assumptions of my character and how I live my life, and it's difficult, because once you put something on the internet, it's there forever. So I try to be as honest, and because at least if I say something wrong, at least I know I wasn't, misleading or something. You know what I mean? I can look back on it in 10 years and be like, okay, yeah, it is what it is. It's like who I was at that moment. That's the truth, But that's the deal, and it's a big responsibility. It's a huge responsibility. Like, like people have asked me for so many requests to do certain things that some of them I've agreed to, but I have to, wait until the time is right, because it's very difficult. The things they've asked, like, one friend had requested I do like an application library, and that's a difficult task. It takes a lot of preparation to do this correctly. You know what I mean? And even if I just did it on a live stream and chopped it up, just to figure out, okay, which applications and how, or is it most universal, and is it more important to show the theory or just to show the application to show off, and then let people figure it out on their own. So there's a lot of things I'm gonna have to consider in that. But again, if you're just coming in, please like the video and share whatever. But the whole point is to get you guys in the comments, just blab about whatever the hell you think it is to you, what it should be to you, how, like, and where should it go? You know what I mean? Because I see a lot of the guys who used to be all over the place. I don't know if it's because I'm shadow banned or whatever, but a lot of the real fighter guys, they've disappeared. And all I see is, the main top 5 character people and their associations and their over the top, advertisements, and I don't think they realize the level of damage they're doing. It looks cool, and it's like there's some things that that look really cool and they're great for advertising, and like when you follow the standard advertising models, okay, when you're making videos in that, like I do my videos as a video blog, right, where I'm basically trying to, I look at it in a way where I'm trying to coach, as I've always done, other people's students, which has been my main job. Like I've had students who I've taught, but my main job floating around has been to go into other schools or to take people who've been trained by somebody else who are going to go back to that teacher, right? So I try to do things in a way that it's more holistic, I guess you would call it. So when you look at their advertisement models and how they do their videos with the cliffhangers and catchwords and fancy edits and things like that, and then the average person sees that, they get the wrong idea and a lot of questions, and you combine that with all the fake guys and all the people who've been trained in commercial, nonsense Tai Chi. They go to fight and they look like 3-legged tarantulas. It's a disgrace. And then it's like almost like it's purposeful, where they don't show any of the real guys. Like when what's his name? Chudadong was going around beating up all the masses. Like, there was like gangs from Chen Village that wanted this guy. He had to like run. I think he like even left the country for a while or some shit. Like, something went down where like, I remember hearing like, there was like massive challenge matches that were going on. Because like, he's going around beating up all these like obviously fake, delusional old men who've never put a glove on, who've never got punched in the face. And he's going and just abusing these people. And then you see him get his ass whipped by like random like Muay Thai guys, boxing guys. Like, you know, he's a fighter, but he's like not this like anything. Like the Chen guy who's looking to kill this dude. Okay? But the point is you see things like that, you know, and then you see like guys who do, you know, okay, but why, you know, it's like almost like conspiracy theory. Like, it's like, where are all the real guys? Because they exist. Like, what about William Chen's kids, right? William Chen has 2 kids, and they went, and they have a really insane record. If you look up William Chen's kids, okay, and you see their fight record, it's no joke, okay? Like, William Chen was a champ boxer guy in China. His 2 kids wiped the floor with half the world, okay? But no one knows about him. And it's a little weird to me that the Tai Chi community doesn't even speak of his name. It's like, there's pockets of Tai Chi and they don't interact. And it's part of the Chinese culture. Like I said, you know, like my time in the Chinatown parks, especially Columbus Park, is when I really opened my eyes. Because I grew up in these parks, okay, doing all kinds of weird stuff, martial arts and hanging out with my girlfriends and, you know, the gangs and stuff. So I've been around the communities a lot, but I didn't understand. Because like I understood it because of the dialects, right? Like people that speak Toisan don't like, you know, nobody likes anybody speak Hakka, okay? Like, you know, in New York anyway, okay? Like, it's like the Hakka people, like, you know, the ghetto people, and then you have like, you know, all of the other little village people. So I grew up understanding that, right? Like if you speak Cantonese, people speak Mandarin, and there's like this like hierarchy, you know, caste-like system, and you know they don't really gel well, right? But then when I started like training in the park, you know, especially Columbus Park, I started to notice something over the years is that you have like these little village sects, and they're friendly with each other, but they never share information. Like, it's very rare. Like, they'll play with each other sometimes, but you never see somebody sharing a technique the way they did with me. It was like, I was able to get every master to take me in and teach me right next to the other villages. And I would literally some days go from one to the other to the other, and just like a sponge, just ripping anything I can get, okay? And they were happy with it, but with each other, there was no, it was not very crossing, okay? So my experience in the world of Tai Chi is very odd, and my spirit guides put me in places. You know, in my entire life, the way that I found my teachers was just synchronicity. You know, like I just was put in the right place at the right time all the time. It was God's will. The only way I can explain to you. You know, you know, my life is a spiritual tragic comedy. But yeah, there's no other way to describe it that it was synchronicity. Like, you know, I was put into the path of random teachers. I mean, like, I'd be in the park and like some random white crane man, like, you know, master or some like, and who would come in and only be from China for like 2 days, and the master was like, oh, you have to meet this guy, you know. Or I'd be walking and I see some mantis guy, and I don't even know who he is, and he wants to play me, and I play, and he's like, holy shit, you're really good. And I'm like, yeah, and then he winds up being like the main teacher in Chinatown, gives me his card, you know. It's just weird things like that happen all the time, or like, you know, I spar world champions and I don't even know until after, you know what I mean? Sometimes I don't even know for years later, you know what I mean? You know, I you know, collegiate wrestlers and like weird stuff that's like runs into my path, you know? So I'm very grateful I have a lucky life that way. But getting the average, I don't even understand how to package my perception and my life path into a digestible meal-sized plate for people who are in the TikTok culture, where if you can't get the elevator pitch, sell yourself in 30 seconds, and my existence is way too complex and broad to be put into an elevator pitch or even on one channel. You know what I mean? It's so difficult. So then when it comes back to Tai Chi, how do I even take on this is an enormous ask of me, you know, so I need to outsource help and really hear from you people, like, what do you think Tai Chi is? You know, fundamentally, what do you really believe in your heart it is, and why do you practice it, and what was it told to you that it is, and where do you think it should go, right? And how do we fix it? There's so many mountains and boulders in the way, you know, and I see so many different people that they make it theirs and they're changing it around. They're adding this and adding that and saying like, oh, it's a spiritual path, or it's this thing, and it's a meditation. Oh, it's a martial art. It must be. Some of the stuff is so ridiculous. Like some of these comments I get, oh, you're not so enough. And I mean, obviously they're trolls, but there's actual people who aren't trolls who really believe this nonsense. That, oh, you must be so soft and you should never fight and you should never do this. I'm like, life is suffering, man. It's the first lesson of the Buddha. Okay? And the Buddha has a warrior attendant with a diamond sword to slay demons. So if you want to play that super soft path with no violence, you're going to need to call guys like me to protect you. You need sheepdogs and wolves in the pack who are going to protect you when you're afraid to get your hands dirty. These people on the spiritual path who are anti-violence, and especially those who don't eat meat, but you're anti-violence, right? The first thing you're going to do when you're in trouble is call someone else to do the violence for you. And this is a problem because with good intention. But the spiritual communities don't understand this, right? That the greatest warriors in the world were Buddhists and vegetarians and vegans, okay? The greatest warriors in history, from the Spartans to the, samurai to, many of them anyway. And Spartans, like vegans, okay? And like highly, highly religious. But my point is, like, if you are going to take, the monk path and be nonviolent, you have to accept the fact that someone's going to need to do the violence for you. And for you to totally turn your eye away from it and condemn it, you're no better than somebody who eats meat but won't kill an animal themselves. So the people who like that guy who has that Wing Chun channel who said that he hid behind Buddhism, which is nonsense. Because the only reason Buddha is still around is because the samurai and sects like that kept it alive, because otherwise they're old and gone, right? It's always the warriors that keep things alive. The warriors, the militaries, and the gangs. But how are you different? How are you different if you're a Buddhist and you don't eat meat and we talk about being triple clean, and there's ways that monks are allowed to eat meat, right? For instance, like if it wasn't made for them, it wasn't like offered to them directly or prepared for them or bought for them. Someone like, for instance, they go to someone's house and it's already dead and it's already on the table, they can eat it. There's like their little catch-22 things. But the point is, if you're on this path and you're like, oh, no violence, well, you get robbed, what are you gonna do? You're gonna call the cops. You're gonna call guys with guns and bats and stuff to go do the violence for you. How is that karmically different than somebody going to a grocery store and eating a cow? It's not. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, and it's one thing to not be capable of the violence and to need to outsource it, but to make believe that you don't need to be protected in this world, okay? Because this is not our world, okay? This is a hell realm. This is the first layer of hell. This free will zone where anything can happen. And good people, like in philosophy, you say angels don't have free will, right? Good people don't have free will. Good people, when you're living like a righteous path, you normally only have 3 options in any given situation. Our lives are a lot simpler because in any situation, I only have so many options that would follow my morality and the decorum. There's only so many things I'm allowed to do. There's only so much wiggle room and wisdom and bend things. Whereas evil people can do whatever the hell they want. They have no limitation. So you have to understand the world we're living in. If you're double light, you're going to get run over. You're going to get eaten. Okay, nothing's coming for you. So you're going to need protectors. You can't have a church with no sheepdogs, right? Satan will come in it and start shooting up the place. You need sheepdogs. You need protection. You need, same way you have brick walls. So we have to deal with the philosophical issues first. And I think that's a major factor, is like rebranding spirituality into TikTok-sized bites that can actually change society and change the direction of the world. I think I've been coming to this conclusion over and over again because I see the old ways don't work. In the age of Pisces, now we're in Aquarius, right? Those old ways aren't going to work. We're going to need to get people to want to become masters themselves. And I don't mean you have to be able to do backflips or, fight and all that stuff, but you have to take on self-mastery in its fullest understanding and be willing to walk the path alone, And most people, they don't have that. They did it when I have a job, okay? Some of my most famous clients, wealthiest clients, guys who went super type A, C-suite, CEO type people, and they can't work out alone. They just don't have it, So there's something to be said about this. Like not everybody can sit with us. You can't all sit with us. So, for me at least, I see it as a spiritual, philosophical issue, right? Because everything is thought first, and people's thought are so different than the way it was done. This is the way people lived even 50 years ago, even 10 years ago. Excuse me. That. How can I, because I feel like an alien. Since I was born, my past lives and all this stuff like that, and my family, and, I had a weird upbringing and understanding of reality. I felt like an alien my whole life, and then training my ass off, just to be the best I could so I can compete in life and do good. When I come out of these training cycles, whether it's with music or martial arts or whatever I do, I come back out and I'm like, people look at me like I'm a freaking alien. And I can't relate to people. I just don't understand the average human, or I understand psychology, I understand social psychology, I understand from a textbook level, but I can't relate. I don't find anything entertaining. I look at TV and I don't get it. These movies that people watch and they talk about, for the last 20 years, I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't understand why this is entertaining to you. You ever seen the show Friends? Go look up Friends without the laugh track, okay? And you'll understand that's how I see the world. And I guess that's, partially from my, childhood being so crazy, but then, studying Zen Buddhism so early, it changed the way that I see reality. So at such an early age that and then I started studying production. And when you see, it's like once you see a magic trick, the magic doesn't work on you anymore. And it's just so difficult for me to watch movies because every movie's the same movie, and the same tropes and the same nonsense. And I don't understand this idol worship. And even me as a musician, when I was doing really well, I had a large fan base, and it was. I didn't understand, I just wanted to play, I was still idealist, I didn't get that, So I just don't understand people. So how am I going to understand, and you don't understand me. So how the hell do I really express what Tai Chi is? Because I can say what it is to me, but how do I get that across in a way that people can digest it and align with it, And for the greater good, especially there's a honor thing. It's you have to maintain your lineage and pass them down. The main goal of humanity is to pass on genetic and cognitive information. Okay, it's your only purpose is passing on genetic and cognitive information. So how the hell am I supposed to pull this off? I have look, if it is what it is, I feel like this is where the gods want me to go. This is where the people want me to go. Because when I look at the consensus of comments, it's 90% overwhelmingly positive, and you have 10% idiots, okay? But I'm also not exposed to the millions mass market people. I have no idea what they're thinking. I see snippets of because obviously the YouTube idiots that have their channels, they like conflict and drama. I play into it on purpose also because I have no choice, but. Their whole channels are literally watching, this style beat this style, and if you really understand, these guys are amateurs at best. It's or you get some amateur versus a professional, and they say, oh, this style versus this style, and then the mass market hears that, and then you see the mass market who thinks Tai Chi is dancing. It's so bizarre to me how many people don't know who Dr. Yang is that do Tai Chi. You know, so like, what am and with the situation, the way social media operates and how the government has put me on their list to like isolate me from the freaking world, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what people eat, what they listen to for music. I don't know how they train. You know, I really don't think that most of the practitioners practice every day. So what do we do? You know, I'm glad you guys, you know, come in to hear my ranting. This is a Tai Chi therapy for me to figure this out before the big show happens, because I've been turning down people for a long time, and I've been actually evaluating, do I really want to be doing this, you know? And now it's like, okay, well, I guess you're gonna have to do this now because too many people have been asking for it. So I want to prepare myself, you know, set up for success for the next, like, you know, not just for the next couple of months, for the next 5 years. Right? If I'm going to continue to do this, you know, I'm going to continue staying on the Tai Chi master path, you know, because people have even like called me like the American Chen Shaolin, like, you know, like, you know what I mean, like how? You know, so if that's the reputation I'm starting to get, you know, I need to prepare properly for it to live up to that, you know, to that standard. And I can't do it if I don't even understand what people think. You know, because I feel like an alien. I feel like, you know, I was so concerned with me just progressing and training that I stopped paying attention to the world. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't, you know. I know what it means to me. I know what the textbooks say it is, but a lot of people argue with that. You know, and then how do I, especially like the spiritual groups, where like, you know, the people who take the Tai Chi philosophy, or the Buddhist sects, and the other people who mess with me to work with them, how do I portray this in a way that's authentic, that makes them understand what I really mean, without being too blunt, and, you know, make them scared of the practice, because the real practice is difficult. Okay, the real practice is hard and it's dangerous. Okay, like if you're gonna do it for real, you know, because life is dangerous, and that's really if I was gonna sum it down to the whole thing, that why you train as a martial art, because you can't practice spirituality if you're in fear and you're sick. If you can't defend yourself from a random person trying to like just like push you down a flight of stairs or something, you know, like just something simple, like someone just like trying to like rip your necklace off and run away. Like, you know, if you can't even like, you know, use ward off to, you know, stop someone from grabbing your chain, you know, like its main function is martial arts. It's for warfare. You know, they weren't dancing with swords to look pretty. They were dancing with swords to, you know, cut people off of horses and like save their villages. You know, like you need these people to protect you and protect the monks who do the spiritual services, right? Because there needs to be some sheepdogs. You need to have people who are willing to fight. And that's not bad. It's not, you know, not spiritual. You know, it's just that there's a part of the reality of this matrix, the demiurge, whatever you want to call this place, that deals in violence, you know, and deals with evil trying to take over good, you know. And while in the end, you know, good always wins, in the short term, good loses a lot. And our job is to, as I would say when I teach philosophy to a lot of people, is like, I'm going to light my candle, and I'm going to light your candle, and I'm going to send you out in a hurricane. And you have to keep that lit and go light the next one. You know, the world is too isolated, it's too harsh for the old methods of teaching spirituality. It's also the way people like to consume information now. So like 10 years ago, everybody would want to watch a 2-hour documentary. Everybody I know, we used to pass them around. And there's obscure things like, you know, just Atlantis, like we'd watch like 6 hours of Atlantis documentaries or something. Now it's like if you can't condense Tai Chi into a 30-second short and then people can practice and learn tomorrow, they don't want to deal with it, you know? So it's like, but I think the Rubberman effect, I've also predicted in my main prediction, there'll be a conservative resurgence, so that'll be a good thing. But yeah, so please, like, if you got this far, I appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe. But really, spend the time, put in your comments. There's no wrong answer. I really just want to hear what you people have to say. What do you really think it is? What is Tai Chi? What does it mean to you? What do you want to get out of Tai Chi? What do you think the population get out of Tai Chi? What should Tai Chi look like for the next generations? And how do we stop Tai Chi from running off a cliff? You know, that's my main focus here, because you know I've gotten many like requests to do interviews with some guys with 100,000 subscribers. You know, my one friend, you know, just asked me to help. And, you know, I don't want to use people's names until it's time for me to release something, because I don't want to put them in conflicts of any nonsense. But you know, I've had a lot of offers I've turned down for many reasons and things like that. Now that's like, I feel like I have to now. There's too many people who are looking for me to lead them, support them now, that are, you know, creating a legend around my name that I have to live up to. And you know, I had no choice. I can't fail. I have to keep going. Now I have no choice. You know, so being completely alone, living this weird renegade monk life, and trying to figure this out, and then, you know, re-inject myself into society. And when I tell you guys, I've always felt like an alien. Okay, like in 2000, there was no, you know, crazy ninja vegan monk Buddha monk guys. Okay, like it was just a completely different world. Okay, I was an alien. When I came back from the refuge, like everyone basically disowned me. You know. Because it was too obscure. It's like I didn't talk to anybody about it. They can feel the energy in like the philosophy. It's just like you don't fit anywhere, you know. And so now after COVID, and for me the lockdown's still going. Like, you know, it's the same thing. Like everyone's, I'm like looking at the world through a glass window. I go out to the stores and stuff, and everyone's in their normal life, and I'm just like this alien, like I came out of a time capsule. So, it's just a weird position. And then when I start actually responding and agreeing to more of these types of interviews that are coming up, and I get catapulted back into the spotlight. I've been in other names in different venues, famous many times. I understand the responsibility, but then as a master of any kind of lineage, it's a much different game. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, and especially with the internet, there'll be generations of people who will be following my lead, right? And my example. How do I do this in a way that is the most beneficial for everyone, not just me? Because it's like, I don't really care about, like, I honestly, you know, me even trying to get famous, it was always a push, you know, Buddhism, like, subversively. Like, my whole mental career was always subversion to push the philosophies, okay? So my living purpose is different. I don't care about the money, you know. I much rather keep my honor intact. You know what I mean? And it bothers me that so many people, they don't understand or live by the same rules. They say they're martial artists. They say they're Tai Chi masters, but they're spiritually corrupt and bankrupt, and a lot of them hide behind, you know, philosophies, and, you know, they hide behind it. And I don't relate to anyone. There's very few people. I mean, so I guess that's part of the path, right? So I shouldn't be able to relate to anybody if I'm supposed to be this leader guy. So, I mean, for me, this path, like, you know, I'm relatively, for a master, I'm very young, right? You know, because even though I've done this for, 27 years, for just Tai Chi, you know, I still have another 20 years to go. Okay? This is the beginning. You know what I mean? If I get healthy enough and I can survive the next wave of insanity, you know what I mean? I have at least another 10 to 30 years. So what is the legacy going to be like, and how is it going to shape the world? Is it going to be better or worse? Am I going to, like, actually be able to help people? You know what I mean? So that's really why I'm doing this rant, to get this organized. Because otherwise I'll just be sitting here writing in a freaking book and scribbling and not get any feedback. And I really need the feedback. What the hell do you guys think? You know, it's just an overwhelming task, guys, to figure this out. So that's basically it. Like I can't see if anybody's here from this far away, but like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions or anything you want to say, now's the time, because I was really just getting to a 20-minute stream, but this has really been heavy on my heart, And, again, like when I took the refuge and like I was told, and it was so bizarre the way it was said to me, like, we're sorry we didn't know, and it basically like my teacher says, I can't go to a monastery. I have to maintain my station in life to prepare the world for the Dharma ending age. And then a couple of days later, I never saw anyone again. So it's a very strange path I've been put on, and people don't understand that I really talk about it. But there's responsibilities, and I really live by these ethics. I live by them. Like I will die on that hill. I am that guy, which is hard for people to understand, because they wouldn't even dare take a day in when I went, So that's another thing. For me to be truly authentic, people who actually I don't take students anymore. I haven't taken a disciple in 5 years. Because there's very few people that have the morality and then have the dedication that is going to be required and willing to suffer. Because if you want anything real, you have to suffer. And even if it's just, let me tell you, like, even just practicing like Buddhism, for instance, to do chanting every day, and I don't do it now for reasons I don't want to get into in this video, but it's dangerous for other people who aren't prepared to be around it. But just to the normal people who are doing the path, right? And you start doing the chanting every day or your meditation, it's painful. Okay? Like, I have so many injuries I can't sit in the lotus anymore or like that. But even sitting, like, kneeling or in a chair and just sit there counting the beats is pain. Most people fall off because of the pain of the mental boredom, right? Or just the stiffness, and like you sit like for like 30 minutes or 2 hours, and you get up, you can't feel your legs. It's like you go past the pins and needles to burning to numbness to nothing, and then you try to get out of the position, and and you're like, I don't want to go do that again. You know what I mean? So even just practicing meditation is so difficult. Forget it, like a real martial art. Like most people, they practice taiji probably go once a week. I don't even know how often. Like, there's another thing you should add in the comments. Like, how often do you train? How often do your schools teach? How long is a class? I don't even know what that's like. For me, growing up, our classes were 2.5 hours, 3 times a week, and that was like minimum. Sometimes it was 3 hours, and then we would train before and after. Like, we the crew get together, and we have warm up, and people hanging out, and then afterwards, we were still hanging out and like beat each other up. Sometimes we would finish the class and we go to Dunkin' Donuts, and we would. There was these 2 Russian chess matches, so we would play chess and spar on the Dunkin' Donuts on Kings Highway in was it Avenue L, Kings Highway. So we would go from my teacher's place, and we'd drive down there, and we'd go hang out at Dunkin' Donuts, and we'd spar. So we'd basically be eating donuts and coffee, playing chess and beating the crap out of each other, And the Indian guys didn't mind that we would throw ourselves on the table and stuff like that, because we kept the place safe. Because even though we were acting like idiots, they trusted us, and they knew that we were doing that, and we're their friends. The people aren't going to come rob the store and they see a whole bunch of goons like kicking each other in the head. But that's the kind of culture I grew up in, And then when I did Tai Chi, I took a couple private lessons and had the book. And then I would do the form, and I would see my teacher once in a while, and he would correct it, and I'd go back. So for me, it was just a lonely road. But I didn't even cross my mind that I was being different than anybody else, because it's just who I was. Like, I just didn't even think of it, because that's how I trained karate. Like, I would go home and I would get up and I'd practice my thing in the morning. I'd practice it before I was asleep. Like everything was training all the time. And so I got to Tai Chi. For me, doing the form was just, I'm learning this thing. I have to just do this thing. And I just didn't even think that I didn't have a class or a school or that was abnormal. So the first, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 years of my Tai Chi practice was me just doing the form alone. You know what I mean? Like most of my Tai Chi training, I mean, because when I add up the years of me doing the form alone, compared to how many like push hands meets and like private lessons and jumping into like people's like random classes here and there, like it's just been just this walking the mountain corridor for decades alone, and every once in a while I'll see some random master here, random master there, and I talk to him, and then he'll like tell me about my technique, and he'll see me play push hand, and he'll help give me some pointers here, and then I'll get somebody else to do it, and that was just my path my whole life, and it never seemed odd to me, and I didn't think about it. I never had a reason to stop and think until now, when people are now asking me to be some kind of representative. I never stopped to think about my path, because I just lived the path. I live the path every day. I am the path. So much so that I don't even think to look at it until now. Like, I just didn't even think of it. So I hope it's entertaining for you guys, and I hope it's making sense. That you could actually add in and interact here and chime in and give me your thoughts and see where I'm going here, because it's very likely that in the next several months to a year or two, that the old generation's dying out. New technologies are going to change, the laws are going to change. This idea of the mass censorship has to change. Okay, it's. I mean, in all honesty, if China was to take over right now, my social credit score would go up through the roof. Okay, like the Western mind hates me, but if I was like on the Chinese like Weibo, whatever the hell they call it, like like I would have like the perfect credit score, because I just lived this like ridiculous like I can't kind of numbers life. But here in upside down land, I'm like on government watch list and the fucking public enemy number one. But that's where I'm at, guys. So if nobody has any comments, questions, or accusations, I can't really see the numbers of me. If anybody will say anything, now's the time. But that's where I'm at. Like people still argue about how to say taiji. Is it taiji, the tai chi? And I'm going to defer to the TED Talk. And I have a playlist that I just realized that's private. I'm going to unprivate it. But there's a TED Talk where the guy explains the way that the character is written, and originally what the character actually is. The character is ji, not chi. Okay? And I'm going to defer to that TED Talk as the standard now, because I can't find anyone who can disprove it. Okay? So is anybody else who has anything else on that subject, please let me know. But so far, that TED Talk is the most logical and realistic thing I can understand, especially from understanding from learning, And it's really weird, because I spoke Spanish, Cantonese pretty fluently, and now I can't remember most of it, because I didn't use it. But I can clearly, distinctly, taiji is big in force, okay? It wasn't chi, because it has a different sound. It's a completely different sound, and you hear it in Cantonese, it's completely different. So it just, for me, I always heard it as ji, okay? And then hearing the explanation made the most sense, right? You learn the force to get your chi up, right? And then I think his name is Dr. Long, I think it is, from the AIC research guy. And he made a comment, the reason why I subscribed to him is he made it, as like the video I saw, he made a really good point. It's like, why don't we just call it Tai Chi Gong? The stuff that's mainstream, that has no martial capacity, why don't we just make them change their name to Tai Chi Gong? Okay? Because it's Qi Gong, right? That's basically culturally appropriating Taiji forms. Because the Tai Chi forms, they have this, and everybody knows this, there's distinct applications. Now, look, the Chinese government obviously did not want, which I think is insanity, okay? Even if you're afraid of an uprising, you still need your people to be strong enough to defend the outside world. This doesn't make sense to me, but that's what they did. Then they destroyed the martial arts in that way. So now all you have is acrobatics. Like even Shaolin martial arts, like the stuff you see in display is not the real Shaolin stuff. Like most of the real Shaolin stuff, like a lot of it got wiped out, and then my Qigong master in early 2000 told me that they actually moved all the secret Shaolin stuff to upstate New York. I don't know how true that is. That's what I was told. Like the real Shaolin's actually in New York. Okay? I can't confirm that. I'm just telling you what I heard. But when you see these demo, like the display stuff, it's just theater. You know, it's promote, you know, cultural promotion for the government. It's safe for the government. They don't feel threatened. Then they're allowed to make swords there. You can't get a real Tai Chi sword from China. It doesn't exist. You know? It doesn't exist. So what do we do? Like, how do I? It's just so beyond me. It's especially like, I had to be. Oh God, they had to put me into this one, right? Like, of all the martial arts, I had to choose two dead systems. If I didn't choose, they would choose me. But that's where I'm at, you know. And no one seems to have any thing to say about it. But I'm glad that you're entertained. If you stayed this long. I guess I'm going to sign off. That, you know, it helped me to get this stuff out, and I hope that, you know, my fellow practitioners and followers and people, you know, will have something to say about it. And I need to hear in the comments or come to the Discord and have a discussion, because, you know, I'm unlike these other guys. Okay, I'm not doing this for me. Okay, I really am not. I'm doing this at a principle that, you know, it's just a path that I was put on synchronistically. I felt I had to do. You know what I mean? It just the way that the gods put me. So I felt like I had to do this. I had to put it back together, you know, in the best way I could. And while I was on the path, I didn't even realize it. It was just something I had to do. You know, I knew I was supposed to do this. You know, my entire life, like and then with all my injuries, without Tai Chi, I wouldn't be able to walk. Like kidding me, like. So in that respect, it definitely has healing properties because I'm a case study. Okay, like the amount of damage I've done to my body, like even sitting here, I'm in so much pain, right? The fact that I'm able to walk right now, even when the amount of pain I'm in, is because of the Tai Chi. I shouldn't be able to walk at all. Like that live demo, I was in so much pain, I had a knife in my back. I'm still able to walk. And that's definitely Tai Chi, because if it was karate, I would be in pieces. So we have to give the credit where it's due. But the way it was taught to me is that, you know, they use all this acupuncture and meridian stuff and design the forms to make warriors, because you had to be super healthy to fight. You know, it wasn't a moving meditation. Okay, it wasn't to stop your enemies without, you know, like the good thing about that is that, you know, what I will say is that when you're on these spiritual paths, you're supposed to attempt to use a level of violence below who's confronting you, right? So if someone's like trying to hurt you, you try to control them, right? To try to, like, you know, it was up to the point, like, you know, you want to avoid doing damage. Same as when you're really like vegan, right? As a Buddhist, you're not even supposed to eat root vegetables because you killed the plant. You're not supposed to step on grass, okay? Like when you get to this level, it becomes, you know, it's weird. But to me, it's always been a martial art, you know. But also my understanding of the martial arts and the philosophy, I was embedded to me from like thousands of years ago, how they did it and how they thought about martial arts, and I lived like that. You know, it's almost like a secret society of like ancient martial artists that I was inducted to, that I had to keep the way during the Toma ending age. You know, it's really how I live my life. People don't understand. And then some they do, and it's like they'll take advantage of that. Which is why I say, like, you know, you can't be a monk outside the temple. It's very difficult to live this double light, super happy life when you don't live in these echo chambers and padded rooms. Right? Because as soon as any of these, like, you know, big name Tai Chi guys leave their little enclosures, they're gonna get mauled. You know? But then it puts me in a weird position because I have to get normal people to digest this stuff and be like, oh yeah, you know, oh, but then you're violent, but then you're not violent enough. And then it's like I'm hit by every side because I walk the middle path, really walk the middle path. I'm hit by all sides, you know, and everyone's fighting with each other. And I'm in the middle, and I'm just stealing from everybody. While they're fighting, and they're like, oh, the Wuson's fake. Oh, you guys are too violent. I'm like, well, that works, and that works, and that works, and that works. I'm going to put it all in my pocket. And I was letting them fight it out. But I'm sitting in the middle of this nonsense all the time. I feel like I'm the only sane guy around. You know? I'm the only voice of reason in an unreasonable world. Trying to have compassion for those with no compassion. You know? Like, what do I do? So that's it. No questions, comments, or accusations. I'm going to sign off because I'll keep going through this until I find an answer, which could take me 10 hours. So, but I appreciate you guys sticking with me through it all, okay? And as I figure it out myself, I'll let you know. But right now, I'm still putting it together as it needed. Like, you know how I am. Like, once I'm on the spot, I always come through. So whatever I choose to do in the next coming months, I'm sure I'll be prepared because Spirit always has the right answer. But as of right now, I have no answers, guys. I'm just like, what the hell do I? How did I wind up in this position? You know, and like, what's the best way moving forward? So, questions, comments, accusations, suggestions. You know, hit them in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you start sharing, guys. Like, I really shouldn't have to say this, but now I'm saying it. You gotta start sharing the channel. I need to at least get up to 1,000 subscribers so I can curse out the YouTube staff and tell them how much they suck and how badly they treated us. Because you don't even get email support unless you have 1,000 subscribers. You know, so that's it. All right, guys. I'll see you guys soon. I appreciate it. Peace out.